The timing of the Kia Stinger's arrival is no accident. With Australia's homegrown heroes now eligible for Jurassic Park, Kia's keen to fill the void for those wanting a fast, affordable rear-drive four-door. The ingredients are familiar and the numbers impressive. A 3.3-litre twin-turbo V6 produces 272 kilowatts and 510 Newton-metres. All-wheel drive is available overseas, but Aussie cars are rear-drive only. Good.
There are 3 grades of Stinger available, but this is the flagship GT. You can get a 2-litre turbo, but it's only around $3,000 cheaper, so we'd stick with the V6. All V6 models use the same engine and Brembo brakes, but the GT scores adaptive suspension and a whole heap of extra kit. Put simply, if any Stinger is going to build a convincing case, it's this one. Let's get the consumer stuff out of the way quickly. Not everyone's keen on the looks, though I don't mind them, so you can make up your own mind on that one. The hatchback layout provides plenty of luggage space and there's ample room for adults in the back. If you have certain expectations of what a Korean car's interior is like, the Stinger is likely to dispel them. It's nice in here. There's pretty much every gadget you could ever really need and the driving position is spot on. Things are even more impressive under the bonnet. This twin-turbo V6 is a cracking engine. The way it hauls almost makes 272 kilowatts and 510 Newton-meters seem a bit conservative. Kia claims 4.9 seconds from 0 to 100, but we've managed 4.82, and the quarter mile takes around 13 seconds dead, give or take a tenth. This is a massively fast car for the money. Boost takes a moment to build, but there's a huge whack in the mid-range, and it revs pretty happily to its 6,500 RPM redline. It even sounds pretty good for a V6. In here at least. From the outside it's much less inspiring, but if that sort of thing matters to you, Kia will sell you a sports exhaust for around $2,700. Anyhow, anyone familiar with the last generation of Aussie sports sedans is not going to find the Stinger lacking in straight-line performance. Perhaps the biggest disappointment with the Stinger's drivetrain is the lack of a true manual mode for its 8-speed automatic. You can change manually using the paddles, but after a few moments of full throttle it reverts back to automatic. This seems like an odd oversight for a performance car, and it's a real pain in the bum on a good bit of road. Approach a corner, go for a down change, and you find you're back in 8th gear. Our exposure to the Stinger thus far has mainly been the lesser models, which, as mentioned, lack the GT's adaptive dampers. To put it bluntly, we haven't been too impressed. The passive suspension tune is a bit jack of all trades, master of none. It's too soft for hard driving, yet the ride isn't as plush as you might expect. Of bigger concern is the lack of consistency in its handling, which makes it sometimes tough to know what it's going to do next. This GT is much better. In comfort, it absorbs most bumps, yet selecting Sport brings a marked increase in stiffness. So much so that it's irritatingly firm day to day, but when you start to push, there's much greater control. It's not really a car that likes to be hustled, but drives smoothly, and this GT is seriously quick. As your confidence builds and you start to push a bit harder though, that's when a few cracks start to appear in the Stinger's armour. To properly demonstrate this, we need somewhere with a bit more space. Now, the Stinger's not designed for the racetrack, but this is Haunted Hills, a tricky little hill climb circuit that does a better job of replicating the public road. This makes it the perfect place to demonstrate what happens when you start to push the GT's limits. The basic ingredients are good, but there are 4 main areas where the Stinger could be improved. Number 1 is tyres. Continental Conti Sport Contact 5s are a fine road tyre, but they're not really suitable for something this fast and this heavy. Push them hard and the wear rate is very high. Push them harder and they just start to come apart in chunks. The cars used on track at the press launch were fitted with Michelin Pilot Sport 4s for a reason. Number 2, brakes. While a decent size, there's a weak link in the system somewhere, as a couple of laps of a racetrack will have the pedal on the floor, and even on the road they can struggle with repeated use. Number 3, ESP. Contrary to Kia's claims, the ESP doesn't go all the way off. Instead, it's more like a lenient sports mode. Now, this is fine, except sometimes it cuts in and sometimes it doesn't. which means the car doesn't always react how you expect it to. Finally, there's just a general lack of rear grip. That might sound fun, but I'd prefer to make a car lose traction rather than have it happen of its own accord. The GT is better, but more security would be nice, especially with this much power. But I don't want to end on a sour note, as essentially the Stinger is a really cool thing. At its first attempt, Kia has built a rear drive four-door, which is practical, pretty comfy, extremely fast, and in the right circumstances, a lot of fun. It just needs a few more tweaks to really realise its potential.